Okay, so we're going to start upholstering these seats in the mini truck. I'm going to start with the passenger pan seat. This way it doesn't affect me being able to drive the vehicle if I don't finish up today. So we're going to start that one and see how the process goes. So this should be a fairly easy process. There's not a lot of sewing involved. I'm going to do a similar thing where I put some black vinyl here and then some gray here, and then some hog rings and some little stitches here and there, and it should be ready to roll. Let's get this seat apart and we'll take some measurements and make some patterns off of it.
I use a couple of pliers to remove the old hog rings. There's a plastic bar that's sewn into the upholstery that the hog rings are attached around to keep the vinyl tension on the seat frame. This is hidden under a flap of vinyl to give it a more finished look. Once I finish removing the vinyl cover, I put the foam aside and clean all the seat pans. This is 27 years of anything that's spilled on the seat and, farts. Now that that's clean, I use a seat ripper to pull apart the old stitches and separate the individual pieces of material. These pieces are basically what I'll use to make the template from. The new vinyl is faux shark or stingray skin. The color's pretty close to the original though, that wasn't intentional, but I'm okay with that, I did like the color. Interesting side note, the handle of a samurai sword is actually lined with stingray skin. Because I separated the pieces with the seam ripper, I can use the old seat material to mark out a cut line for the new seat. This will give the half an inch or so overlap I'll need for the seam. I then use those pieces to cut the landau foam. The landau will give me something to sew to and create the pleats for a finished seat. I spray glue the foam to the vinyl to help hold it in place before it's all sewn. So here I first considered sewing a diamond tuck pattern, but after messing with it a bit, I think it's a little too fancy for this truck. Plus I'm having all these issues with the sewing machine. I end up replicating the same pattern that's in it now, just straight line. So there's a little jump here. I've been having so much trouble with this machine lately. I didn't even film this part. It took me like 4 hours to just sew these stupid pleats into the vinyl. I kept breaking thread every few inches. This was the most important and visible part of the seat, and I'm really not happy with how it came out right now. There's a lot of messed up seams here, but I'm just going to push on for now. Eventually, I got all of the pleats sewn. They don't look great, but they're not horrible either. So now I measure out the contrasting black vinyl that'll make up the sides. I fold a seam into it, pin it, and then sew in the rubber welting. This is what the hog rings will actually attach to. This is the hidden flap I create to hide the hog rings on the side. Okay, I think I got my machine under control right now. I pin the black edge to the seat portion by laying the two faces together and pinning around the edge. As I sew this from the back side, once it's completed, we'll flip it inside out for a hidden stitch. Before I reupholster the pan, I put some rattle trap on the seat pan. This stuff is just like Dynamat's. It's a sticky rubber and foil sound deadener that'll help with road noise and heat transfer. This pan is the only separation between my ass and the hot engine below. I reinstalled the foam seat pad and then stretched the new vinyl seat cover over the pad. I used my hog ring pliers to attach new hog rings. Hog rings are basically thick metal staples that when you put into specialty pliers bend around in an interlocking shape to hold the vinyl in place. They have a tapered cutting edge to puncture the vinyl. I load them up into the plier first and then push one end through the vinyl and then squeeze. That's it. I install all the hog rings around the base. And the passenger seat's done. Again, we uninstall the original vinyl and disassemble everything. The seat pad is already made, so I cut up and sew the black edges again. This is the rear flap that holds the hog rings to the back of the seat. Again, we clean the farts out and apply the rattle trap. Then we start reattaching the vinyl with the hog rings. And the driver's seat's done. So here are the two lower pads installed in the car. I'm shocked at how little of a difference there is between the colors of the original seats and the new ones. Obviously the trim in the new one is black instead of gray, but goddamn, that fake Stingray is pretty close to the original color. It's got a little bit more of a metallic sheen to it, but otherwise. So I'm gonna pull these back out. We're gonna get the back pad pulled out of the car. We'll get this one reupholstered as well.
So to take these out, I think I just have to undo that screw on both sides.
And this whole seat should just lift up. So here's the seat back frame and the foam. It looks a little different than the other seat pans. I'm wondering if this was refoamed at some point. Either way, the same process as before. I'll remove all the stitching from the existing cover and use it to make a pattern for the new vinyl. I sew up all the edges from the new black vinyl to match the old gray stuff. There's a pretty significant length of black that'll wrap around the whole seat frame. Here I pin and sew the black edge to the new seat. Once again, apparently I missed filming the pleats in the gray vinyl. This thread and this machine are killing me. I have to order some better thread, so this won't happen anymore. Okay, now I flip the cover over right side out and I cut off any loose strings. Thanks to that crappy thread, there are a lot. Then I get the frame and start stretching. As before, the hog rings get installed to hold the vinyl in place. And look at all those fucked up pleats. The thread kept breaking and the machine kept hanging up, and I'd have to restart right in the middle of a row that I already got halfway down. So instead of having one nice tight line, I have this janky shit.
Here's the seats all reinstalled. Not my best work. I was having a lot of issues with the sewing machine. Could not get a decent stitch. Everything kept breaking on me. I'm gonna have to reevaluate my choice of machines. I think I just need to bite the bullet and get a true industrial machine if I'm going to keep doing this stuff. The one I have is kind of a portable, you know, it'll do the job. But anyway, that's about it for this one. I get in before it starts pouring.
So this will do for now, but expect a version 2.0 soon. On to the doors and speakers. So I hate these things. They stick way too far into the cab. The angle doesn't really provide any actual audio benefit. I found out after I took this door card apart that there was actually a hole for a speaker, but it would have been a 4-inch speaker instead of a 5 1/4. I would have been fine with that. I would have just bought 4-inch speakers. But now this is what we're left with. I don't feel like buying new speakers, so we're going to attempt to replace this with a smaller ring like this. You can see the difference of how far that sticks out. This only sticks out about 1 inch off the door. So I'm going to take this off. We're going to take the whole door card off. We're actually going to reupholster the door card, and then I'll get these mounted on and see if I can mount the speakers into those. So really, just the magnet hangs out, and I think I can actually countersink that into the door there, a cavity for a 4-inch speaker, and I think this will actually fit right into that area. So I'm going to get the door card off, and then we'll get it all apart and see how we can make that fit. So these door cards are relatively easy. You take out the screw that holds the handle on. There's 2 screws underneath these 2 handles, and then the crank arm, there's a little spring load that's in the crank arm that you got to take off, and once that's off you can just pop the panel off. These things always bounce all over the place. Okay, so here's where I had this other pod mounted. Now I figured out there was actually an OEM pole. It doesn't exactly line up with where we had it. So I'm going to try to get that ring. I'm going to punch this out and try to get that ring closer to this area so the back of the speaker can actually mount into the door and there won't be any fitment issues there. So let's see if I can poke this hole out, and we're going to take all this vinyl off and reupholster it. After pulling the vinyl off, I line up the new speaker location. I lay the door card out on the fabric, and then I trace the pattern. Then I add about 1 inch of extra space around the edge. This way I can fold over the vinyl and staple and glue it. I cut the shape out of the vinyl. Then I cut the landau foam to the same size as the door panel without the extra edge. This way only the vinyl wraps around. If the foam wrapped, it would create too much thickness around the edge. I was going to do some cool panel inlays with the sharkskin, pleated, or something like that, but this was before I bought the new machine, and I could not deal with another thread fiasco. I cut the landau foam to match the door card, and then spray some adhesive on the foam to attach it and the vinyl together. Then I spray some adhesive on the other side of the foam and the door card. I spray about 1 inch of the back edge of the door card and begin folding and stretching and stapling the edge. I'm using a very shallow 3/16 staple, and I keep the staple power turned down so it doesn't shoot through the other side of the card. Then I trim the holes for the handle, crank arm, and speaker. I realign the speaker based on my earlier measurements. I actually drill some starter holes from the back to assure that it's lined up with the OEM speaker hole. Then I flip it back over and install the ring and the speaker and the bezel. I'll install the grill once it's in the truck. Here's the finished panel. Simple, but it works.
Okay, so this is the difference between the old pod and the new one. So just that little 1-inch ring worked, and now we're going to get it mounted in the car. Much better. Here's the driver's side all buttoned up. I'll probably paint this hardware something, but not worried about it right now. So here's the driver's side now. My leg has plenty of room. I still touch the speaker if I want to, but I can get to the gas pedal without having to have my leg in a weird position. So that's it for the updates on the Suzuki for right now. I have some more stuff that I'm working on for it, but I'm still in the process of filming and editing those files. So in the meantime, the next couple of weeks, we're going to have some very exciting updates on the Datsun. It's been way too long without that car on the road, so stay tuned for those videos. And if you haven't already, subscribe and click the notification bell so you'll be updated when those videos post. It's hot in here, I gotta blow it cleaned up. No AC in Florida is no fun. And leave me a comment below and let me know which one of these project cars that you like the most and which one that you'd like to see some more of. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.